Hi everyone, this is Ed Berlinski again with our fourth broadcast on real estate investing. And as I always like to mention at the very beginning of the broadcast, my goal, is to basically give you a much better idea of what really takes place at what we call an exchange marketing meeting, and also in between throw in certain what we call formulas to help you find creative solutions to invest and to finance real property. I want to first thank everyone who has sent me responses, emails in some case, faxes and so forth, trying to improve the presentation that I have. And as I've mentioned before, I can't do this alone. I need your help. And I'm just hoping to continuously improve the product so that you'll get the most out of it. And again, the importance, if you will, of your seeing this, and if you like it, clicking that little share button up in the corner or to the side of the of this broadcast, so that you can share this broadcast with other brokers, other friends that you might feel can get a benefit for it. Today I'm going to talk about that topic that I've been talking about to you, which is why an exchange marketing meeting is different than that local meeting you've been attending or not attending for the last 3, 4, 5 years. I'd like to maybe digress a little bit. I spoke to a very good friend of mine locally and told him what I was doing, what I was in the process of, and trying to explain to him how our meetings are so very, very different. And he said, Ed, you know, I've been to so many meetings before, and I end up sitting in the back of the room, and after the 5th or 6th or 7th presentation, you know, I doze off or I lose total interest. There's no or very little communication between the person who's presenting whatever he has for sale at the podium and the audience, and it just isn't something I get a whole lot of benefit from. I could just get the MLS sheet and learn the same thing that he's presenting to me up at the podium. He's got 5 acres in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's zoned such and such, and the price is such and such. Thank you very much. Next presentation. That doesn't happen at our meetings. That's not what we're all about. And this is a huge subject. I'm going to try to both go over this as relatively quickly as I can, but let me say that, you know, I could spend all afternoon telling you how it's different. What I'm going to tell you is just the very highlights. And I think if you can grab onto that, you'll see why this meeting is worth coming to for you. It'll help your career. It'll help your network. It will improve your knowledge of the craft, if you will, that we're all in. And so here we go. And I've broken it down into categories. And the first, I think, and the most important category are the attendees. And forgive me for a moment if I glance down at my notes, because I've got a lot of notes on this particular broadcast. So if you'll forgive me. Also, another comment that I like to make, which is, I know some of you that are watching the broadcast will make comments on the side, and I'd love to respond to them, but I'm just afraid that it'll sort of break my train of thought a little bit. The letters are a little tiny, and therefore it's hard for me to see them. So rather than spending time conversing, if you will, or recognizing the people who are watching, I'm sorry to say that I won't be able to pay too much attention to those. So I ask your apologies at the beginning to bear with me, if you will, because I'm trying to do a lot of things at the same time. Okay, the attendees. Why are our attendees maybe different than the attendees that are sitting next to you at the meetings that you attend? where people stand up and give these presentations on properties. And I went through a few characteristics, if you will, of the attendees that I have seen over the last more than 20 years that I've been attending these exchange marketing meetings. First and foremost, all of our attendees that are coming, and I'm speaking here of the people who have been attending for, let's say, 3 years or more, people who are sold on these particular meetings as meetings that will help them. All of the people that are coming to these meetings, the members of these groups, are here to learn. They're here to learn, whether they've been coming to these meetings for 5 or 10 or 15, and there are people at our meetings who have been coming to these meetings for 30 years or more. And they're people who feel, I think, that they haven't learned everything there is to learn in the real estate investment world. There's always something, there's always a new process, there's a new thing that's going on, and those people are hungry to learn it. The second thing is that the attendees at these meetings that I have found are willing to share the information that they have. Many of them are specialists, special in retail, special industrial, special developers, special land people that can do things and are doing things very, very creatively and having a lot of fun doing it and making a lot of money doing it. And so, you know, they're not holding their cards to the vest, they're not worried about telling somebody some formula that they've been using that they don't want anybody else to know about. They want to share it. They want to share this information with other people who come to the meeting. It's a huge source of educating yourself. The third thing is that I think to a person, they understand that there's a social aspect to these meetings. We're not just dry professor types that don't have senses of humor. There's laughing that goes on at the meetings occasionally with inside jokes that people have. And, you know, we go out to lunch together, we have dinner together, we socialize, we learn about our families. Some people occasionally, they take their wife to the meeting, although the wife doesn't go inside the meeting. The wife is there visiting whatever town the meeting is held in this case, Las Vegas. So, again, it's an opportunity to get to know the person, the human being, the background, the character, and to form bonds with that person that you normally would never ever form in a one of your local sit-down presentations that you've attended. Another incredibly important thing that the members, the experienced people who are coming to this meeting understand is that almost the entire event, the entire process that we go through at our meetings is predicated on the belief that it's all based on client counseling, on being aware of the fact that you can't just run in there and get a listing and run back and stick a sign in the ground and feel that you're doing the best for your client. There are a number of seminars that are given, 2-day full seminars on how to counsel your client. And what we're talking about here in terms of counseling your client is really asking him dozens and dozens and dozens of questions about his particular circumstances that allow you to fit those circumstances with solutions. The solutions we call the formulas. And you can't match those formulas to the clients unless you know the client. Does the client own a lot of other properties? Is the client 80 years old or is he 30 years old? Is he building his portfolio? Does he like the kind of assets he's in right now? What type of financing does he have? Is he tight right now, or is he loose right now? Does he have $1 million, $2 million, $3 million of cash, ready cash, that he might add to an asset that he wants to sell in order to basically exchange that for a larger property? All of these factors are absolutely critical in terms of you're helping him to find maybe more than one, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 directions that he could head based on his own profile, his risk profile. Has he recently been divorced? Has he recently had a terrible injury, a sickness that's affected him? So many things that you simply must get to know about your client. And I dare say that when you get into some of these questions, if your client feels that he doesn't want to answer them, or he's reluctant to, or feels you're getting too personal, you may have to walk away from that client. You might have to walk away from that client. The next thing I want to talk about is moderation. I want to talk about the importance of having a moderator at the presentations. And a moderator is simply someone who's experienced, who gets together with that presenter who's going to come up to the podium in another 5 or 10 or 15 minutes or half an hour, and gets off to the side and discusses this opportunity with the presenter, and basically filters out the irrelevant information, so that when that person gets up to the podium and has a 5-minute deadline on what he can say to the 60 or 80 or 100 people in that room, the moderator keeps him on track, doesn't allow him to go off on tangents, and makes the presentation much more productive than a person who's up there presenting his own property and maybe doesn't have quite the focus that he should have. So almost all of these presentations are moderated. And one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of this process, and I hope you're sharing, I hope you're pressing that share button if you think this information is helpful, because again, we want the most people possible to find out about these wonderful meetings that we're having. And so I hope you're pressing that share button or comment button or like button or whatever the case may be. The other thing that is a part of every meeting, and I'm speaking again, this is important, I'm speaking about the 2 national groups, the National Council of Exchangers and the Society of Exchange Counselors. We talked about those the last broadcast number 3, and where you can contact them and where you can locate them. And I must admit to you that maybe not every smaller local group has all of these processes, but they have most of them. They have most of them. I just wanted to mention that fact. Now, the next segment I wanted to talk about is education. And there's 2 real parts of education that you get here at these meetings. The first is the formal seminar, which usually takes place on the first day of the meeting. And it's sometimes a half day, sometimes a full day, of a speaker who's experienced, who's usually one of the members himself, who has a particular specialty, and basically holds a seminar on that specialty. Very informative. The other education is the informal education that you receive, which can be even more beneficial than the formal education, and that's the informal back and forth that you get at these meetings. These meetings are very interactive. When a moderator is finished the presentation, he turns around, he asks the room for questions, he asks them for comments, and many times the people will raise their hand and say, have you thought of doing this? Have you thought of doing that? Can you do this? Can you do that? Bringing up, in some cases, dozens of ways that presenter can improve the chances of selling his asset whatever that asset might be. And so, again, that informal education is so critical in absorbing, meeting after meeting, what's really going on, the implications of exchanging, the implications of how you partner. And again, that's something which a number of people overlook, but it's so important. Another thing, just very briefly, is all the kinds of things that basically take place at our meeting. You know, some people think that it's just a series of people who get up at the podium. I've got A for sale, or B for sale, or C for sale. Thank you very much. To sit back down. So much more takes place at these meetings. And I've just listed a couple things for you very quickly that we can go over. We have, of course, sales. We have purchases of properties, people coming to buy. We have leasing situations. We have, of course, 1031 exchange implications that are the foundation of how people are building their portfolios in order to, of course, avoid capital gains tax. We talk about IRAs from time to time. People in the room lending through their IRAs, a couple people actually investing through their IRAs, and you can find information on how to do that or where to find out about that. A lot of meetings never talk about contributing skills to a partnership. Many times people attend that meeting, they don't have any cash in their pocket, but they have a lot of skills and a lot of experience. And a person with cash who wants to do a project can marry himself to that person with the skills and do very, very well together. We've had a number of people that have come together with complementary skills and have done very, very well. So you can market your skills. You can use your skills as a down payment on a property many times. I'll try myself not to get off on a tangent. There's so many things that we talk about. Obviously, financing. There are private people there who have private, they're hard money lenders like myself. There are other private finance people. There are people who have contacts with institutional lenders and bankers and so forth. You can get some great, great ideas about who you should be talking to get a particular kind of loan for the asset that you want to finance. Partnership opportunities, my gosh, there are dozens of partnership opportunities that come up. As I say, people with complementary skill sets that get together, that have met each other several times at the meetings, who have increased the comfort factor of each other, and decide to do a venture together and partner. Again, another thing that is there that you'll see is what we call paper. People that come to the meeting with notes, mortgage notes, deeds of trust, whatever the case may be, and they or their client do not want to hold on to those. If it's a 7-year note, a 10-year note, a 15-year note, they want to basically cash out and sell that note for cash today so they can put it to work. And there are people in the room who buy these notes. So again, you can, there's this little sub-market of paper that takes place, if you will, at the meeting. The biggest subject, the biggest thing, the biggest part, if you will, that I wanted to talk to you about the marketing meeting is the marketing book itself, which you receive, which every person who attends the meeting receives. Actually, the Society of Exchange Counselors has this marketing book on your iPad. They download it into your iPad, but at the National Council of Exchangers meeting, or virtually, I think, all of the super regional meetings and local meetings, you receive a marketing book. Now, the marketing book, and I have one here, I'm going to show it to you. I'll ask your forbearance because the letters are all backwards because of the way the camera works, but you'll get an idea physically of what you get. Now, this is the National Council of Exchangers book, and this is, you can see there are 150 pages in this book. Each one of the pages is a property that someone has for sale, or cash that they might have to invest, or a partnership opportunity they may want to market. And again, each page, and I'll show you the page again. The letters are backwards, but it doesn't really matter because you don't have to see this. But each page looks like this. It looks like this, and it's in what we call, or have come to call, the Reno format, and it's based on the way that an investor, a broker 40, 50 years ago by the name of Richard Reno, who started a lot of this exchange marketing concept that he developed and other people have improved upon. And I just wanted to go down the items on this particular piece of paper, because some are items that you just haven't seen before, that you don't see at your local meeting because people just don't get into it that deeply, but that are very, very critical in terms of your knowledge of the depth of knowledge of what is being offered for sale. And I'll run right down these. I'm looking at a sheet. I'm looking at my notes. At the top of the page, of course, is the name of the project itself, what kind of asset type it is, the description of it, a brief description of the asset, one sentence, two sentences, and then sometimes a website where you can find the property in greater detail. Of course, the address. And then we get into some interesting parts of the page. First is the benefits to the new owner. You know, it's nice to look at these things. You look at the top, it's the kind of asset you want, and then you look at the benefits to the new owner. Is this have a very steady income stream? Does it have strong upside? Whatever the case may be, the person who puts this together basically gives you a hint or an idea of the benefits, or the presumed benefits, to the person who's going to want to buy this asset. Then there's a property operating income statement, so that you can get a very concise idea of the income if it's an income property. There's a section on the loans that are outstanding, so you can see just what type of financing the property has, because that can be very, very critical in putting a deal together. And again, another section that is never seen locally in an MLS is the benefits that are sought by the present owner. That's very, very critical. Does this owner want to exchange this for something else, something very different? If you're going through these pages, you know, you may find an asset or a situation that basically is just what this person is looking for, so that maybe you can do an exchange. Maybe you know someone that has an asset that basically this person is looking for. So it's nice to know the benefits that are sought by the person who is making this presentation. Maybe he just wants cash, and he wants to go down and out, and he wants to move to Hawaii and spend his cash for the rest of his life. And it's nice to know that. It's nice to know that. Maybe he wants to take his cash and he wants to reinvest it in the development property, and that might help you understand him. Another section that you will never see in a local meeting that you go to, in your local Realtors Association, is what this person can add. We call them can adds. And this concept is basically the fact that you may have a property, and let's just assume that it's a piece of land for $100,000 up at the top of your page. But if this person can add cash of $300,000 to that $100,000 piece of land, then he can look for, and if you have a property up to $400,000 that he may want to buy, you know that basically you can deal with this person or negotiate with this person for a much larger transaction than the $100,000 that's indicated at the top of the page. And furthermore, without getting into too much detail, many, many times a person will add or can add another property, another kind of property that he can add to this land to put a bigger deal together for you if you require a bigger deal. So again, that's something that you don't see anywhere else. There's remarks at the bottom, additional comments. The lister may have, might be a broker himself, might be the owner of this. This might be in the shadow of a Home Depot. There might be a similar contiguous parcel right next door that's sold for a similar price. All those kinds of smaller details. And at the very bottom, you have the name of the counselor, the name of the broker who's representing this particular client at the top. So all in all, again, and I hope again you're clicking that share button if you think this is valuable, and I hope it is. But I hope I've given you several different reasons why a meeting like ours is a meeting unlike you probably have ever attended. It's wildly more productive, it's wildly more educational, and I'm just hoping that you will jump on the internet and Google some of these organizations that I talk about in the broadcast number 3 and sign up for the next meeting. If you want to know where a meeting is that's close to you, I invite you to email me at edberlinski@gmail.com, and I will try to personally get back to you and give you a local group or regional group, if you will, that might be close to you that you can begin attending meetings. So with that, I will sign off. I thank you so much for your patience. It's been a longer session, but necessarily long, I think, in order to explain this. And again, I thank you so very much for attending, and I look forward to our next broadcast, which would be broadcast number 5. Thank you very much again, and good luck.